I used to believe my marriage was unbreakable. For years, my husband and I lived with this quiet understanding that no matter how chaotic life got, we'd show up for each other. But somewhere in the middle of long workdays, late-night emails, and weekends swallowed by deadlines, things started to shift. It wasn't dramatic at first. It was subtle, little moments where we stopped asking about each other's day, stopped pausing long enough to listen. He was traveling more, taking on extra projects, pushing himself to provide everything he thought we needed. And in that process, without meaning to, he drifted away from me. I don't blame him. He wasn't cold or cruel. He was tired, worn down, and stretched thin. But the more distant he became, the more invisible I felt. I would talk and he'd nod while checking something on his phone. I'd try to plan small things, dinners, walks, anything, but there was always something more urgent waiting for his attention. I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal, that it was just a phase. Couples go through things like this all the time. But deep down, I felt lonely in a way that scared me. That loneliness made me vulnerable, and I hate admitting that. It made me crave attention, validation, even the smallest sign that someone saw me. And that's exactly how I let the wrong person slip into my life. He wasn't special or important. He was simply present. He listened, asked questions, noticed when I got a haircut, little things that felt huge compared to the silence I had gotten used to at home. I told myself it was harmless, that I just needed someone to talk to. But conversations turned into emotional comfort, and emotional comfort turned into blurred lines. When he asked to meet on my husband's birthday, I should have said no. I should have realized what I was risking. But I told myself it was just lunch, just a quick escape from the emptiness I didn't want to face anymore. I knew it was wrong, and still I agreed. I woke up that morning already carrying a knot of guilt in my stomach, but I ignored it. My husband had sent me a sweet birthday text, telling me he couldn't wait to celebrate later. I typed a quick happy birthday back, pretending I was buried in work. The lie tasted bitter even as I typed it. I told myself it didn't matter because I'd still make it up to him later. But that was just another excuse on top of all the excuses I'd been making for months. I got ready with more effort than I should have, knowing exactly who I wanted to look good for. I kept telling myself it was nothing, that I just needed a break, that someone listening to me didn't mean I was doing anything unforgivable. By the time I met him, I had already built enough lies in my head to convince myself this wasn't a betrayal. But the truth was obvious the moment he smiled and complimented me. I felt seen, and I let that feeling override the guilt screaming in the back of my mind. Lunch turned into 2 hours of effortless conversation. Every laugh, every compliment, every lingering look pulled me deeper into something I should have walked away from. My phone buzzed a few times, messages from my husband asking when I'd be home. I ignored them, telling myself I'd answer once I wrapped things up. Time kept slipping, and I didn't stop it. I didn't want to. By the time I finally checked the clock, half the day was gone. Panic hit, but instead of leaving immediately, I stayed another few minutes, trying to calm my nerves. I told him I needed to go, and he simply smiled, saying he enjoyed the time. That made it worse. I rushed home rehearsing lies, thinking I could smooth everything over. I believed he was still out busy, unaware. I thought I had time to fix the mess I had created. I had no idea that the damage was already done and that he was waiting for me inside, fully aware I hadn't spent the day where I claimed to be. When I walked through the door, the house felt wrong. Too quiet. Too still. I called his name softly, expecting silence, but instead I heard him answer from the living room. His voice wasn't angry. It was calm in a way that made my entire body go cold. I walked in and saw him sitting there, jacket still on, as if he hadn't been home long. But his expression told me otherwise. He looked tired, defeated, like he'd already cried or forced himself not to. Before I could say anything, he told me he came home early to surprise me. He had picked up his own birthday cake because he thought we could share it together. He waited for hours. My phone calls ignored, my location not matching what I told him, everything piling up until he realized there was no innocent explanation left. He pulled out a small bag he had found in my car, a receipt from the restaurant I claimed I never went to, and the cardigan I wore around the other man earlier, but had forgotten to hide. He didn't yell. He didn't ask for details. He simply said he knew I wasn't with coworkers, and he knew I hadn't forgotten his birthday. I had chosen someone else. On his day. I tried to explain, but the words fell apart. My excuses sounded pathetic even to me. He didn't interrupt, didn't argue, just listened with this empty look that hurt more than anger ever could. When I finally stopped talking, he said he had been holding on to our marriage for longer than I realized. But this was the line he couldn't pretend didn't exist. He stood up, grabbed the small suitcase he had packed before I got home, and told me he was leaving for good. Not temporarily. Not to take space. He said he deserved better than being a last priority or a placeholder for someone's loneliness. I reached for him, but he stepped back and said goodbye in a tone that felt final in every possible way. Then he walked out, leaving the door open behind him like a reminder that I had broken something that would never close again. After he walked out, the silence in the house didn't just feel heavy, it felt hostile, like it was holding up a mirror to everything I had done. I stood there for a long time, unable to move, waiting for the door to open again, hoping he'd come back even if it was just to yell. But nothing happened. That stillness forced me to face the reality I had been avoiding for months. I had destroyed my own marriage with choices I didn't even fully understand until it was too late. I sat down on the floor and replayed the entire day in my head, from the moment I woke up to the moment he confronted me. Every decision felt sharper now, each one cutting deeper because I knew exactly where it led. I tried calling him, texting him, sending message after message, but everything remained unread. I didn't blame him. What could I even say that wouldn't sound like another excuse? The truth was simple, I knew what I was doing, and I did it anyway. Friends I confided in didn't sugarcoat anything. Some told me I had made a horrible mistake. Others didn't say much at all, which somehow hurt more. I learned from a mutual friend that he moved in with his brother and filed for divorce almost immediately. No hesitation. No discussion. He didn't want closure from me. He didn't want explanations. He just wanted out. Nights became the hardest. I kept expecting his keys at the door or his footsteps in the hallway. I kept catching myself reaching for my phone to tell him something small, something ordinary, before remembering I no longer had the right to share any part of his life. Losing him wasn't just losing a partner, it was losing the one person who had loved me consistently until I made him stop. I finally accepted that attention from someone else wasn't worth the damage I caused. The validation I chased lasted a moment. The consequences will follow me for years. And now, all I can do is live with the fact that I broke something I can never repair.